And we keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch here on WCPT 820 AM, HeartlandSignal.com, WSBC 1240 AM, Chicago, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. And this is something that the streets have been talking about for a long time now. They've been calling for it, they've been demanding it, and it is about time. The best time to do it is when the Bears have finally kicked off. The Bulls are right on the horizon, and we have some baseball to talk about. He is one of the best in the industry. He is somebody I'm excited to finally have on the show. If you go to Chicago Fire games, you've heard his voice. If you like good music, you've heard him on B96. You've seen him on CHSN. You've seen him on everywhere in the universe, from Fox to Marquee. You've heard him in 670 The Score, being your favorite therapist. He's the one. He's the only. He is my brother. He is Gabe Ramirez. Gabe, welcome to the show, brother.
What's going on, man? You just reminded me how many damn jobs I got. Wow, that's like I got a lot of jobs out here, but I'm ready, man. I'm ready. This is gonna be my new favorite one right here. Talking to you, I'm excited to be on the show.
Man, I appreciate it. And before we get into the sports talk, like a little bit of throwing you flowers, like as a Latino in the Chicago sports market, there aren't a few of us. I've talked to this before with Ray Diaz, who you're familiar with over at the
Of
Score,
course.
and you're one of the I would use the word pioneer for somebody from where I come up and how I've come up through the industry. But you are somebody who is a voice in the community that we entrust to be the voice of reason during bull season, during
Thank you,
bear
man.
season. How is that as a Latino in Chicago? You and I, the familiarity of Puerto Rican, and
Of
just how much we know how much passion in Humble Park for baseball and basketball and
course.
just the community. How is it being one of the voices of the Latin community in Chicago when it comes to the sports world?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, man, it's about being a good representative, right, of your people, not just, Puerto Ricans or Latinos, but Chicagoans as a whole as well, also, right? Like we have a bad rap in the country. And so, to be able to be a representative, whether that's on Hulu, right, on a national level, covering Lollapalooza, or locally, on one of the many jobs that I have, it is an honor. And I wear that hat with much pride, right? And I often speak, whereas initially, and this being Latino, I just wanted to make my mom proud, right? Like I wanted my mom to walk into a room and be like, "That's my mijo right there that you heard," or whatever it was. And then I realized as my career continued, because initially it was just a way to get money, and then when your career continues, you realize that you're you are tasked with making everyone proud, everyone that knows you. Now, because now, people like you, right? They're like, that's my guy. I know him. That's my dude. Wherever you're being seen at, and you want to be a good representative for your friends, for your family, for Chicagoans, for Puerto Ricans. And I think, like I said, I wear that hat with pride. So I do view it as an honor, man. It's crazy.
And it's funny because I proudly call myself a Latino mutt. I'm Puerto Rican, Mexican, Costa Rican. I got a bunch of stuff, and it's amazing though because like this weekend we have that Bud Crawford Canelo fight. But I remember growing up and Tito Ortiz, Trinidad versus De La Hoya.
De La
Like I
Hoya,
remember
yeah.
growing up in Fullerton and Pulaski, just how epic it was for that. But I think it goes to show the passion across all races, ethnicities, sex, creeds in the city of Chicago. Like you said, you get to see from the youth to the elderly at Lollapalooza. Then you get to be everybody's therapist after a Bears absolutely heartbreaker on a Monday night. How fun has that journey been, being able to kind of cross into both worlds? I mean, we're right here on WCPT, so we do the political thing. We try to have
Yeah.
a very fair way of looking at things, and then you are able to bring in the sports world. Try to have a mind for being somebody who's open minded to a lot of different things in this short life that we have. How has that been for you to kind of cross into both worlds, entertainment and in sports?
Yeah, I mean, I listen to 820 all the time as well. You know what I mean? It's one of the trusted voices in the city of Chicago. But I think, you said it yourself, right, with your different nationalities, right? And I would say that's a byproduct of being a Chicagoan, right? Like your parents being around here and then getting together. But
Absolutely.
where else can that happen but Chicago, right?
Yep.
And I think the beauty of being a Chicagoan, I think our superpower, right, is the fact that we are influenced by so many different cultures. And so for me, I grew up on B96 listening to Eddie and Jobo, right? That was playing in the basement parties. But I was also, like you said, watching the Trinidad fight, watching the Bulls win in the 90s, watching the Sox. I'm a Sox fan. Watching the Sox play with Frank Thomas, with Robert Ventura. Like, you're around it already. It's embedded in the culture. So for me to go from talking music to going and talking sports, it's no different than a conversation you and I would have if we were on the phone or in a group chat or, whatever. Like, this is what happens across Chicago. So I feel like, again, it goes back to wearing the hat of a Chicagoan or a Latino or whatever that might be, is that you're just a reflection and a representative of everyone. And I feel like I do that well by being able to be dropped into any space and be able to exist. And I think it's not just me that feels that way, right? Again, going back to being a reflection, Chicagoans, cities, suburbs, us, anyone from this area, when we go somewhere else, we see that we have this superpower, and it's adaptability. It's the ability to be anywhere and be able to blend in and not make anyone feel uncomfortable.
And, we've seen how versatile you are doing that, being funny. We've talked about off mic, the bits, and also taking it serious when it comes to looking at things analytically, because you're going toe to toe with guys like David Hall and Bernstein, Leila Rahimi. I mean, we could go on and on, Molly Hall. Yeah. Like, we could just go down the list of the people that you have to keep up with on the sports realm, and then also know what a Sabrina Carpenter is doing, what Bad Bunny is doing. So it goes to show, kind of, I think, like you said, being raised in this culture of Chicago, because it is the biggest little city in the world, and there is so much that kind of goes in together. And you bring up, we're a byproduct of our environment. My parents met as teenagers at the McDonald's across the street from Wrigley Field. This little Puerto Rican boy and a little Mexican girl meet each other, and it kind of segues to some actual sports talk, because big time Sox fan over here with Gabe Ramirez. I'm a big time Cub fan, obviously by birth. So
right,
how did
obviously.
your summer go watching baseball this year? For on the north side, more as a fan, but breaking it down, there was a lot of frustration, a lot of good. You have to remind yourself this is a playoff team, but expectations mean a lot, and we're going to get to expectations in the main event about the Chicago Bears. But how was your summer watching the White Sox? Have you been able to get any type of enjoyment? Have you been able to get any type of hope comparative to last year, especially? How was the summer on the south side for Gabe Ramirez with the White Sox?
Yeah, well, first I want to show love to the north side, right? I went to Lane Tech, mile and a half away from Wrigley Field, so very familiar with Cubdom. All right, my dad's a Cubs fan, my brother is as well. So I'm a fan of the front office of the Chicago Cubs, right? And I think that or at least before this year, they've done a good job of putting their team in a position to win and compete at a high level. They unfortunately didn't pull the plug this year at the trade deadline, which was head scratching to me, because you waited 3 years to put yourself in this predicament, right? So, but for the Northsiders, the city's a better place when the Cubs are winning, and to see what they've been able to do this year, at one point holding the best record in National League Baseball, the outburst, the PCA, Kyle Tucker playing well, just the gelling, right? Craig Counsell putting it all together. So it's been cool to watch from afar, this Cubs team to get to the point that it's at right now. As far as the White Sox, and I think there's a lot to be very, very grateful for, right? I think, one of my old bosses told me that, sometimes, Gabe, you just need a fresh coat of paint. And I think that's ultimately what happened with the Chicago White Sox, where they went in a direction for as long as they could, and they ultimately needed a fresh coat of paint, move on from certain people, reignite the culture. And I think Will Venable has done an excellent job of getting these guys to play at a high level. But more importantly, I think it's about bringing in players that love the game of baseball. Right. And when you're looking at Kosa Montgomery, Chase Mydroth, even Andrew Benintendi, the way he's been playing as of late, it's infectious. And you've seen it before he got hurt. Luis Robert Jr. was playing at a high level. But you get guys like, Edgar Carroll, Kyle Teal, trade pieces that come to the team that want to prove a point that they belong not only on the majors, but on a good team. Right. So it has been exciting. One of the predictions I made for the second half of the season on CHSN, the Chicago League, make sure you check it out, weekdays, 6:00. I said it was a bold prediction, but I said that the White Sox would win 5 games in a row for the first time since 2025. Now, mind you, this is back in June, but I just felt like maybe the young arms might come up or whatever. And obviously the White Sox ended up winning 6 games. So, it's things like that that you can point to and say, okay, well, now there's a foundation that you can build upon. Not to say you're going to get a $100 million player, but you can build upon, and it's certainly something to be excited about when you're thinking about the South Side.
And I think that's the one interesting thing is how fast when it seems like you have any type of competent leadership finally join an organization, whether it be the White Sox, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, the Bears. We have moments in sports history in this city where you can see when a front office or an ownership made a shift and how it changed the fortune of that team. No better example than when Theo Epstein comes into Chicago and what that does for a franchise and what happened when Rocky Wards took over for his father. And we'll see what happened with Ishbia and the Chicago Bulls as the years go on with Michael, what happens with Jerry and the White Sox as the years go on. And if Tom Ricketts ever decides to, spend a little bit more money, but it's that idea, like you said, just the future becomes a lot hopeful when there's leadership that at least you could put some form of trust in. And you put in a lot of trust in this man's voice. He is Gabe Ramirez. He's all over the universe. We're going to link down every single place that you can hear and see this amazing therapist slash brother slash confidant in the sports world. You can follow him on Twitter at Gabe Ramirez and on Instagram at Chicago underscore Gabe. So before we get to the Bears, because I know that's what everybody wants to hear us talk about, I need to get your opinion on this. Josh Giddey has a 4-year, $100 million early Christmas present with the Chicago Bulls. And it almost seemed like this was once again a situation where the Bulls put themselves in this spot where they had to pay somebody, whether they wanted to or not. We've seen it with Zach LaVine, and we could go on the list. That's the most recent one. What did you think when you saw the Shams report that they came to a deal and the amount of money it is, and does it give us any thought of what Arturas Karnisovas or what Mark Eversley are thinking about, what they plan for this season for the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there when it comes to this deal, right? When you're talking about the Chicago Bulls. But I think first, if we're concerned, or those that are concerned about the amount per year, or the AAV, or the total contract value, you have to look at some of the names that you mentioned, right? And giving contracts to certain players like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. These are players that AK and Mark Eversley have done a good job moving off of, right? They tried to get the most that they could out of them, but they were still able to move the contracts ultimately. Granted, you might not have got what you wanted in return, but when you're talking about basketball as a business, they were able to do that. And I think Josh Giddey is no different. He didn't get I think personally, right? And I love good business. I love good people. I think if you would have given them like the qualifying offer or like a Cam Thomas 1 year, $6 million deal, it'd have been insulting, right? And the Bulls, unfortunately, aren't in a predicament where they can make bad PR decisions when it comes to players and contracts. Okay, when they're thinking about the longevity and the future of the team, you want to let players know we handle business the right way here. If you perform an average of triple double in the second half of the season on your contract year, then we're going to bump you up a couple $1 million. Now, we're not going to give you the $30 million that you wanted because you don't necessarily deserve that. And the market dictates that's not a fair qualifying offer for you. We want to be in the $22 million range. Obviously we're at a standstill, but I'd rather you not sign the qualifying offer and walk away, right? I'd rather get you under contract for 4 years, control, and who knows what that salary cap might look like in 4 years. What we do know in basketball, and in any sports for that matter, is that it continuously goes up, right? Yesterday's price isn't today's price. You know what I'm saying? Or wait, today's price is not tomorrow's, whatever the hell, however the saying goes. But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Yes. So, but the fact of the matter is, 4 years at $25 million on a contract that is movable, right? Because he's a team player. He's working on his defense. He's a young guy. He's under 25. He's still got room for growth, but he has proven that he can do this at a high level. Now, what's going to be different is, can he do it when another superstar comes in? When another A comes in? He's not going to be holding the ball the whole time. That's why he was moved off of in OKC, because Shea needed to have the ball. So when somebody else comes in, can you mature enough in your game to be a key component on a high-level playoff team when somebody else comes in and needs the ball and has to shoot that? And I think he can, because we know he can average a high amount of assists, right? He's a guy that likes to move the ball. He's ball dominant. He likes to score because he has a bigger frame against smaller point guards. But I think ultimately it was a good move by the team in the present, because what the hell else are they going to do, right? They don't have many options. So for me, I had no problem with it at all. And I have faith that, AK and Mark Eversley, if need be, they can move on from it.
And I think that's when it comes to the most frustrating part for me, when it comes to not just this regime, but even during the Gar-Pax era, was how creative can you be as a front office? We see around the NBA, I mean, it's just now that Steve Ballmer gets caught, but like around the NBA, people are doing backdoor deals, agents are making deals, and the Bulls are never in this. They're never in the Giannis conversation. They're never in the disgruntled player ready to find a new home. And I just want Mark Eversley, our Turner's Knishovich, to be as smart as we thought they were coming out of Toronto, Philly, and obviously Utah, Denver. Like, I obviously want them to just come through and be in these conversations. If you have somebody like Devin Booker is ready to leave Phoenix, be in a position that you have the draft picks, that you have the capital, the contract capital to move on from them. That is what this Bulls team is winning. Talent can overcome a lot of stupidity in every sport. And that is one of the big things is, can you get as much talent as possible on this Bulls roster? And the question ends up being, is Josh Giddey a part of a talented team that the Bulls go for a playoff run, or is he a piece to bring in said superstar that would help you go to a championship run?
Both things can be true, right? I mean, if you're smart enough to build a talented team around Giddey or understand, where he fits in a deep playoff run, then he can be that. And if you need to pivot, right, and he ends up being a trade piece where he can match now, right? We might complain about the dollar amount, but now he can match up with someone that is getting paid, not this person, but somebody like this, like a Michael Porter Jr. that was making $23 million, right? You can now move his contract along with Josh Giddey to get somebody like that. If he becomes disgruntled, to your point, now you have someone, if you look at every team in the NBA, they have 2 to 4 players that are not 4, 2 or 3 players that are making $25 million. This is how it works. Everybody else is making 6, 7. If you're looking at the good teams, there's 2 or 3 players, they're all making 25 million. So you need someone to be able to move off of. So, again, like, you get a disgruntled star that may not be a superstar, but he's making 25 like like Josh Giddey, then you can move those contracts. So again, I think both things could be true.
And it's going to take time, and it's going to take this front office to make one of these moves. And trust me, they do that. You've seen the United Center filled out when the team isn't that good. Imagine if you could build a damn winner, what you could do if it's all about money. Gabe, before we let you go, I have to get this from you. I know this is the passion of everybody. It was the biggest disappointment on Monday night, and that's because of expectations. People had high hopes that Ben Johnson was going to come in here and at least we didn't put into context, or maybe some of us didn't. It was the first time he was the head coach of a team. Caleb Williams, sophomore year, first time under the Ben Johnson offense. But I think the big problem I had on Monday night was it felt like we lived through, in 60 minutes of football, a lifetime of Bears fandom. We saw everything that it meant to be a Bears fan, from that opening drive to that dud of a fourth quarter, to Cairo Santos missing a field goal, to the very next time you have a Minnesota Viking kicking it 60 yards when he was picked off the garbage pile. There was so much that was disappointing about Monday Night Football. So my question to you is, they could bounce back. Caleb Williams could still be a star. Ben Johnson can still be the boy genius. I think that's all on the table. I still believe in a lot of the stuff that I said in the preseason. But now we have to have expectations that are adjusted, if you will. What are your adjusted expectations heading into Sunday with Detroit after Monday night?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's important to acknowledge that I'm a meatball Bears fan, right? So to me, no one could do wrong, right? So let me preface my whole statement with that.
Amen.
But I do think, right, the one thing that we're all missing, and I didn't really get a chance. Now, I saw the game and then went on the radio on the score, but I didn't have a chance to like truly decompress, right? And I went back, watched the game, thought about it. And I think one thing that I've been missing in all sports talk across Chicagoland area is Ben Johnson hasn't been given the opportunity to coach the team. All right, think about that for a second. You had your training camp, you're brand new, you got the people in. It's the same people from last year. So when you say you watch the Bears, yeah, you watch the same Bears team from last year. They are. Sans a couple of players, okay? He had yet to have a game where Caleb Williams played 4 quarters. He was able to watch the starters on defense for 4 quarters. He was tasked with, all the stuff a coach needs to be tasked with mentally during the course of a game. He didn't have that until that very first game. And so what I think the component that's missing is, well, you gave Ben Johnson all this money because you thought he was a good coach, right? That's the key word there. You thought he was going to be a leader of men. Well, now he has the opportunity to do that. Now is when we see Ben Johnson coaching, right? Before he was just, I'm throwing everything at Caleb. I'm trying to see what we got. We don't know who's going to be the left tackle. And we got to wait till week 5. Like, he's telling you this stuff. We don't know yet. Right. But he's putting everything in place in order to coach successfully. And I think that's what's been missing from the narrative about last Monday night's game, is that It's week one. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. You know what I'm a huge fan of? I mean, throwing something at the board. I don't need something to be perfect before I display it to people. If I'm doing a bit, a story, whatever the hell it might be, do it, then fix it. Because the second and third time you do it, it's going to be great, right? By that time. And then all of a sudden you got to worry about it anymore. And I think that's the same thing with Ben Johnson's in the middle of right now. So when it comes to, Sunday against the Lions, I mean, talk about, you think Monday Night Football for your opener is the most hostile environment you could walk into at home. Imagine going back to the place you used to work at and had so much success there. They're going to boo your ass off, right? Or, excuse me. They're going to boo your head off there. So in that particular moment, you got to be saying to yourself, what can you do? Dumb it down, right? Learn from your mistakes. Now, I'm more curious about the results of that game than I am about what needs to happen between now and the game. I want to see how Ben Johnson coached. And I want to see what happened. How did it transpire in the game? What adjustments did he make? What adjustments did he have his team make? And I think then you can make a true assessment or change your expectations about this team. Because I think the first game, they know they should have won. They know they're the better team, right? I think in their heart of hearts, the Bears feel that way. And when they face them again, Bears will win and will beat the Minnesota Vikings. So again, I think you have to change your expectations. You just need a little bit more, but you got to give Ben Johnson the grace. If you were so excited about him being the head coach of the Chicago Bears, then you got to allow him to coach this team and Caleb Williams.
I think you bring up such a great point too of what we learned from after this game, because it's how does Caleb Williams respond to all the scrutiny, all the articles, everything that's been written the last 2 weeks. Ben Johnson really putting his feet to the fire of, you're not only did you get quote unquote out-coached by Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, but now you're going against Dan Campbell and your own team that they want their first victory of a season and they'd love to take it out on you. And then I want to see the biggest investment this offseason was that offensive line. Can that O-line play better? Can they avoid having what I believe weren't any scripted runs? So that means Caleb Williams a lot of time was either running for his life or just decided to put his head down and get out of the pocket. So I want to see that fixed up. I would love to win a Super Bowl. Who wouldn't? But I want to see you get better. I try to get better day by day. That's the only thing I can ask from this football team is play better football and don't make it miserable for us. Gabe Ramirez, you never make it miserable for us. Anytime you're either on Hulu doing Lollapalooza with the youths, as they call them, or if you're on sports radio talking to every single one of us who is a truck driver or just insomniac after a Bears primetime loss, you do a great job over with the Chicago Fire. I mean, everybody's listened to you over the years at B96. We love listening to you at 670TheScore. And then obviously the amazing work that you guys are now doing over at CHSN. Where can everybody support you? What are the name of all the different shows that you're always that you're doing, not that you're just in the universe of what are all the places that we can support our guy Gabe Ramirez?
Yeah, I think I think if you're a Chicagoan that loves sports, that lives by the mantra of work hard, be good, then I would surely encourage you to follow me in my journey, because that is what I try to exude day in and day out, whether that's on TV or on the radio or in my life as a husband and a father. So you can just Google, it's 2025. Put in ChatGPT, Gabe Ramirez, Chicago, and the whole thing will come up. But yeah, man, I encourage you to follow me. I'm a good follower. And again, man, a true Chicagoan at heart.
Gabe Ramirez on Twitter at Gabe Ramirez, on Instagram at Chicago_. Gabe, we're going to put all the links to all the shows, all the different fun stuff that you can support our guy at. And Gabe, last thing, quick answer, fire to the feet, Derrick Rose. Yes or no? Should he have that jersey retired up in the rafters?
Of course. Don't even ask me such a weird question like that. Of course.
All right. The cousin Primo could come back. We'll be at Nelly's for the brunch. Everything is okay. He gave the right answer. Gabe Ramirez, thank you, brother, for joining us here on the Sports Cubicle, Sports from the Couch, here on WCPT 820 AM, Heartland Signal, and on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining us, man.
Love you, brother, man. Thanks for having me.
Much love, brother.